Welcome to the weekly close live here on the Passive Income Podcast. So super excited for this week's very special guest co-host. You know him, you love him. He is Tom at Saving Captain. Tom, thank you so much for coming on and filling in for Joseph this week. It's great to see you. Great to have you back here on the Passive Income Podcast. How have you been?
Dave, I'm doing fine. Thanks for the invite. I tell you, I had so much trouble getting in, resetting my password. I thought, Joseph was going to be back from California by the time I got into this. So sorry for the sorry for the delay. What a week of fireworks on earnings.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we have so much to talk about this week. So much. And so first we'll get into the closing numbers of the week. And this is I don't know if you know the format, but this is where I give you the second to plug. And I know you got to do it. You got to plug the Money Happy Hour podcast while I pull up some closing numbers of the week before we get into all the different companies and earnings calls. So go ahead and plug that Money Happy Hour podcast.
Absolutely. So I'm Tom, the savings captain. I'm the host of the Money Happy Hour, where we make every hour a happy hour for your money. And I'm always joined by my producer, Radish, the hardest working dog in podcasting. Two podcasts a week, one on Wednesdays, a conversation with investors, and Wednesday, kind of free format, talking about matters of the day, available on all podcast directories.
Nice. So yeah, like I said, closing numbers for the week before we get into all the earnings calls. And this week the earnings calls were absolutely ridiculous, but we'll just quickly get through this as I always start with the TSX Composite, the Toronto Stock Exchange, closing this week at 21,969. Still floating around that all-time high above 22,000. So, doing good, strong, not too bad. S&P 500 holding that resistance above 5,000. I know it did dip. I believe last week on the weekly close live, we were below that 5,000, but again, S&P 500 closing, and I am on yahoofinance.ca, so you do have to watch what currency you're looking at things in. This is in USD. Again, above 5,000. Great week for the S&P overall, really. The down, which we'll talk about with all these uh, earnings this week. Dow Jones Industrial Average closing the week at 38,239. This one is hurting me, man. Canadian dollar, 73 cents on the USD. Making any trip to the US very, very difficult for myself and any other Canadians. Uh, but, the US dollar is, I did see a post today about the US dollar being a little bit stronger, and that's obviously probably, I guess, I don't know, helping the US economy. And crude oil closing the week at $83.66 a barrel on the New York Mile. And again, that is in USD. Jumping over to Bitcoin, this is in Canadian dollars. Uh, Bitcoin never closes, but 87,000. That literally just jumped up there, didn't it? 87,000 Canadian dollars. I will talk about that again when I pull up Coin Market Cap. That will, and I'll show it in USD. Jumping over to the Nasdaq, closing the week back to you really have to watch when you're on yahoofinance.ca which currency you're looking at. The Nasdaq closing the week at 15,927. Overall, a pretty good week in the markets. Quickly, we'll jump over to England and the FTSE there. Closing the week in Great British Pounds at 8,139 quid. The Nikkei, Joseph and I joke every week about our one Japanese viewer closing the week at 37,934 in Japanese yen. And just for fun, we quickly look at the Canadian to the euro, 68 cents. So yeah, closing numbers for the week. And we will soon and quickly get into all of the earnings calls. Tom, where are you at? What are you thinking?
So last week, this time, the key figure you made me think. The thing I was looking at was the S&P 500. Could it defend specifically? I think the exact numbers was 49.83. Bam! It defended any um, any bull market would do. Retest, classic stage of testing and reversing. Who knows if it's a head fake? I'm showing 50.99 roughly in US dollars, of course, so it passed that test. But the dial I was looking at today, this has been on my screen the last 2 days. This is what I'm thinking, Dave. I kept hearing this number on the US 10-year Treasury. Yields are running away again. It, they said, look for a close at 467 and above, look out. And don't you know where we closed today? 4.663. We're going out to the third decimal point. So just under 7. So, I think that's a story in itself as we start thinking about earnings and like what's driving the market. That damn pesky 10-year. Boy, this really, I mean, we've gone up 50 bips pretty quickly this year.
So as we were trying to figure out that whole problem getting you logged on here to Restream, I was DMing with Joseph. He is currently in the line at TSA in the San Francisco airport, but he's still he's still here. Tom's filling the seat well, and yes, you are. So uh, we will quickly pull up the. I guess we'll get right into Monday here just shortly. As soon as I get again, I've got to do the producer thing. I don't have Radish. I don't have a dog to help me with this stuff, you know. Well, I have a dog, but my dog is well, Whistler.
Radish was like, "Oh, it's Friday night. We usually don't do these on Friday night. We usually chill." And she saw me coming up to our kind of makeshift studio in the new house, and she knows her job. That's why I call her hardest working dog in podcast. And she came up. She knew we were doing something. She didn't know what it was.
Oh yeah, new house. We'll have to talk about that too, but let's try to get through this because there's so much to talk about this week. This week was just like all the big bangers, right? Like I was literally just looking through all the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays of these graphics that I borrow, quote unquote. I steal them from Shadow to Dairy. He knows I do it. um, there's
It's
so many this week. It was just in a like all the big companies, that everyone watches. So we'll get quickly into Monday here. And honestly, Monday was probably one of the days that were a little bit less compared to all the other days. And I guess I'm just gonna right away ask your opinion. What any thoughts on any of these companies from Monday? We've got Verizon before hours. Like I said, Monday was kind of almost the blah day of the week. SAP after hours. So Tom, any thoughts?
I tell you what, I think Hooker and Lovesack, they set the stage. They were like the opening act for the exciting earnings we were going to week.
Oh, you saw that. I
It's glued to those reports for this was this was big tech mania week. This was prelude of Max 7. There's a lot of names I want to talk about on this. I would say first on Monday's list, if I had to go, Verizon always interests me because it kind of disinterests me between that and
right.
AT, just capital intensive, stodgy businesses, high debt, just never been my thing. I'll take a quick glance at a Verizon. Are there
Yeah,
any
and
other?
honestly, the telecom companies here in Canada are very similar, where it's like they the high debt and I know it's very similar there in the US with Verizon, AT&T, because they're investing so much into whatever it may be, and the debt just piles up. So you're as an investor, you're looking at it going, well, they're good companies. People pay their cell phone bill every month, but at the end of the day, can they manage that debt? And
Let's go.
I'm having not Verizon, but here in Canada, Bell Canada, TELUS, I'm having sort of these same feelings and they're not warm and fuzzy feelings.
No, and everything I hear talks about these debt. I don't know the specifics on how their debt structured when higher interest rates eventually catch up with them. In general, I hear, you go into 25 or 26. These are people like the real wealthy, smart guys like Jamie Dimon talking about that's when these companies have to start to worry. But I don't know their exact, debt structure, what they're having. Hey, I'm pulling up the list of earnings. The drawback of the good news is I'm in finally. The bad news is I got it on the phone first to my laptop. I can't fully see the list on Monday.
Oh, okay. Well, honestly, we can probably skip over Monday a little bit because it's fun, but the rest of this week is so much better, right? Like,
There's one I really want to talk about. I'm chomping at the bit, and I know what's coming.
yeah, let's jump right into the Tuesday. So before open on Tuesday, we had GM, General Motors. Great company, has been around for so long. UPS, oh my God, I just want to be a UPS driver to make 180 grand a year, right? Uh,
Yeah,
General Electric, again, basically another legacy company. Right below that, PepsiCo. Below that, down to Spotify, JetBlue. Over on Tuesday after close, Tesla. Oh my goodness, there's a big story there. Visa, Texas Instruments, and I don't know. I guess it's the next day. I was looking at. There's another one. So where do you want to start on Tuesday? Like I said, this whole week, I can't believe Joseph is missing this week. He's so bummed about missing this week.
this this is the week that all the cool kids were on earnings. So let's really take a look at Tesla earnings. So would you agree the Tesla earnings were just like they're pretty bad, right? It's a continuation of bad.
Yeah, like they missed and they were down and they haven't had a lot of great news in the last, well, definitely not this past last week, but overall, you know,
So
sales are down. More
right,
competition is coming out. Honda just announced that they're good building a big EV battery plant here in Ontario and potentially more than that. And so all these other car makers, like, and again, going back to GM there before open, like you've got GM, Ford, Honda, Toyota, they're all coming at you with all these new EVs. So where does that leave Tesla, right? Like,
I can let's break it down. I can set it straight for you. What's going on with Tesla? What I'm thinking on that. So um, this is my opinion. Just let's look at the facts first. So year over year, this wasn't the first quarter. This was the fourth quarter in a row we've seen this pattern with Tesla. What Tesla did this quarter was the last three quarters, the stock went down 10% after earnings. It rallied into earnings. This case was different. The setup was a lot different on Tesla. It had 7 down days in a row before it went into earnings. I think it was 15 of the previous 20 days were down. So the stock went into earnings. What do we know? Very oversold. One of the heaviest shorted stocks out there. And one of the most down on the year S&P 500 stocks. I think it was down 40% going into earnings. So that's set up for just on the technicals a great bounce. I actually have a print I got filled at 139 and change on Tesla. I just went out on earnings day before earnings and said, I'm just going to pick it up here. I think most of regard I can't imagine they're going to add more bad news to the fire that's going to drive the stock lower. If anything, we're going to get a little bit of a relief rally for two reasons. One, there's not going to be any new bad news talked about in the call. There's more likely to be a little of a calming effect. And hey, short sellers are people too, right, Dave? They want to make money.
yeah,
Down, they were gonna buy into it, cause a little bit. I wouldn't call it a short squeeze, but they were buying into it. So on the technical side, that's what's going on. But look at this revenue down 9% over year, right? You got net income down 55% year over year. The stock's in a downtrend. I've been buying it in Radish's account. since like the 176 range, I think. And I was pegging, I was pegging buying it down to 140, which it did happen when it got there. And this rally up to the high 160s or 170s, it's got resistance here. But everything you were saying about it, the car piece, that's not why I'm buying it for my speculative piece. I think the thing that's going to make or break Tesla, look, they're you can't out China. When you get into a price war, you're in a price war with China. They're doing everything with BYD. I get it. They're talking about the cheap car, the low price car coming early 2025. Sure, that'll be good, but it's a decreasing margin fight. One of the only two reasons I own Tesla are because I like the car business, but it's kind of like the chance of what I'm getting with it. And I think as an investor, I'm looking 3 to 5 years out. I guess you can call me the optimist robot. I'm an optimist. I'm an optimist on the optimist. A couple years out, that that could actually be a solution to what businesses are facing. You start getting into, look at Amazon. If they are if let's put it this way, if you're UPS and you're FedEx, here's a good example. If UPS nails the robotics piece and they end up, just naming names, they're efficient, they're using Optimus. Basically, FedEx in a competitive business, they have to do something from a robotic. There's a competition that settles in with business. That's why I like Tesla, but it's going to be a rough. Let's 90 days from now, when you review Tesla earnings again, we're going to be having the same story. Margins tight, you know, volumes are down. I don't care what's going on in the car business. They're in a lull right now. Sorry, I got worked up about it because this is what I thought going into earnings. It happened. This is what I thought when I initially bought it. I love when something sets up like this. Why I started buying it. The earnings setup was what I wanted. The post earnings setup is what I wanted, but I know it's going to be a slug the next 90 days and longer, but I'm thinking 3 years out.
Right. Okay, that opened up a lot of thoughts for me here. First, do not tell Joseph that I'm drinking on the job because it's Friday night. He knows I like to have a beer on a Friday night.
Now, I'm not going to tell. I wish I was having one myself, man. I got to go.
Second. So basically, Radish is down like $30 a share on his portfolio.
Look at that. Let's
Her
take a
portfolio.
question. I think she's off. She's a little bit better. She bought one buy at 176, but she's actually up on it. Sorry, she's got an average cost at 152 because
Oh, good. Good for her.
but it's the classic. Um, and everyone out there's listening. Oh, you're violating. Don't try to catch a falling knife. It is a falling knife. I don't think it's going to fall. Yeah, it very well could see 110 to 115 from here. That's what I'm seeing as the next near term stop. Below that, I don't think that's likely.
Right. And then you also said that you're looking at a 3 to 5 year hold, at that price. But I've seen your tweets, man. You're like, I've held this stock for 3,000, like
Oh,
78,000 days.
no. So it's a new ad. It's a new ad of this year. One of the few things I've. It was either late December or early January, but it's the newest stock in my portfolio and Radish's portfolio. So that's not a long-term hold, but it's with that same mindset. I'll be glad to think 2000.
But your idea of a long-term hold is like 15 years. Like, no, sorry, your idea of a short-term hold is like 15 years because you just don't sell. You just like, I bought this in like 1812 and I still hold it today.
So let's do that. I haven't sold a stock in 2,474 days.
Yeah, see, that's my point. That's my point. Like, how many years is 2,470 days?
That's going on 7 years. This is even better. So Walmart, 22 years times 365 days. I know this has nothing to do with earnings, but it does as everything. So I'm on day roughly 8,000 with Walmart.
Yeah, great. Like I go there at least, if not every week, like every other week, right? And there's Walmarts. I don't know where they are in the rest of the world. I know there's literally like 5,000 in the US and probably 1,000 of them in Canada or whatever the numbers are. And there's probably more around the world as well. Yeah, how do you go wrong with a company like Walmart, right? Like that's
So to my
basically my
point back,
grocery shopping is at Walmart.
I'm willing to take that. I'm willing to take that. These momentary bend, um, break or bend kind of moments that a company goes through
Right. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
for the setup, because I'm not even worried about this quarter or next quarter. If I'm going to be right on it, I'm going to be, I'll be right, and the payoff could be down the road. If I'm going to be wrong, it's going to be pretty quickly when it gets obliterated. But I don't think that's going to happen. Boy, we see. I told you there was a lot to talk about on Tesla. I mean, that was just um,
Yeah. Is there anything else there from Tuesday that you wanna go over? GM, UPS, GE, PepsiCo, which you can buy in Walmart, Visa.
yeah.
It's kind
V
of been a great story this week on CBC Radio is like, what is Visa and what does Visa do? Like, Visa is they're kind of a nothing company that makes millions of dollars because
mm,
they issue credit cards through the
yeah,
banks. The banks are the ones that kind of provide all of the customer service or any other sort of whatever. Like, what does Visa actually do? When you get a Visa, you sign an agreement saying, "Okay, I will pay this basically loan shark interest rate of 20 or 22% if I don't pay off in 30 days." So, what does Visa actually do?
the
It was a
same.
very interesting question. Again, CBC Radio, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation,
Did they
and
did they talk about duopolies at all? Because basically, you could throw Mastercard, I think, in the same conversation. What do they
yeah,
do?
exactly. No, they didn't. They didn't actually talk about the duopoly of Visa, Mastercard, or even American Express, or a few other Discover, a few other credit cards.
Yeah,
But the point was, what does the actual company of Visa do?
yeah.
And I guess in the news story on the radio, it was implied Mastercard as well. Like, what do they do? Because the banks are the one. Like here in Canada, as you know, we've got the big five, big six banks. And so if you get it, like my Visa is through who is my, I think it's CIBC Visa, and or you could get a TD like Toronto Dominion Visa or Royal Bank Visa or whatever bank Visa, right? So it's the banks that are actually doing all of the work, so to speak. So it's like, what does Visa do? they just they just rake in the money.
It's an efficient business, isn't it? You get to operate as a duopoly. I know the whole, what is it, the whole Discover deal and merger going on, that could rock the boat. And they probably got a good argument saying add some competitiveness to this. But what I like to think of a business like Visa or MasterCard, the ultimate parasite business, right? They're just
Yeah.
roll swipe, and it's a lot of times the you know it's the customer using the card. There's a loyalty program, 9 times your point back, cash back. That's the next layer. Then there's the bank. Then there's Visa collecting the whatever they charge, the process, the merchant fees. It's a good parasite business.
Right.
But UPS, that was interesting to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're just on Tuesday and it feels like we're just getting started here. UPS, General Motors, General Electric, PepsiCo. Any of those you want to talk about before we skip over to Wednesday?
Yeah, I'd say UPS is interesting to me. The struggle that they're having, the volume. I saw a pretty good. I don't know how correlated these are. The point they were trying to make was the performance of UPS stock, and there were a couple of other attributes. To guess what, you brought it up. The wages earned by the UPS drivers, or since the new contract. I don't know if those how you can correlate those two, like if there's perfect correlation, but Boy, it mapped pretty tight. It sure did. Everything's been going down with UPS, and simultaneously as the wages went up, it hasn't looked good. Um,
Yeah, great for the drivers, but investors are going a lot. Well, if we're paying a truck driver 150 grand a year instead of 100 grand a year, that's a lot of money going out the door, right?
yeah, I heard something I didn't like this weekend. So I was out driving, and one of the things I sometimes listen to, I keep my ear to the ground on this, is I don't have any direct holdings in it, but it's the trucking industry. What the truckers are, and there's a segment or two that I'll just pop on. It's on an XM station. I forget what it's called. The trucker, oh, Road Dog Nation, I think they call it. But Dave, what they had on last week when I heard it, and I haven't looked into this more, they had all these truckers. There's just it was like a live show like this, and truckers were just talking about, I've been doing this 40 years. I've never seen it like this.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. People are getting laid off. That's something I don't see it or experience it directly. You don't see.
No, truckers actually never get laid off. They just because every company is like because I work in purchasing and logistics, so I see this every day.
So
And
that's why I kind of bring it up too. You probably several steps closer to it than I am. But I started thinking about these UPS type companies, transport stuff like that. Boy, that has nothing to do with this week's earnings, but it makes me think of next next year's earnings, what they're going to look like. What are you hearing?
yeah, I I I don't know how to respond to that 100% actually. Like, there's a few different scenarios there. There's actually one thing I want to bring up, which is actually FedEx compared to UPS. Obviously, they're both really good companies. Purolator, you can throw them in there as well. Um, so FedEx right now, as it stands, has been this way for years. You have FedEx Ground and FedEx Express, and they are two totally separate entities. I've been on the phone with like basically an account rep from FedEx Express saying, "No, if you have a package being delivered by ground, I can't see any more than you can see by the tracking number on the website." And
Huh?
I'm just like, "Yeah, that's unreal." So in June, like just a month or 6 weeks away, they are actually going to bring these two together for the first time in 40 years, and I think it's gonna be called FedEx One. So I find that very interesting as well. I know this week's earnings was UPS, and I'm talking about FedEx, but it's just kind of an interesting caveat, I guess, of a company actually realizing that what they're doing is not beneficial to their customers, like having totally separate entities of FedEx Ground and FedEx Express, and finally merging the two together to make it better for the customer. And now getting back to UPS, great company as well, deliver on time. Like, I could get something from almost anywhere in the world next day. All of them, UPS, FedEx, Purolator, and there's other ones as well, obviously. So that's just my little. I can't believe we're 30 minutes in almost, and we're still only on Tuesday. Joseph, why did you miss this week, buddy?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Hey, I found the thing I was talking about on UPS. Those that are listening later. It was an article in Benzinga, and it was something like, um, oh, I just had it here. Where did it go? Benzinga, UPS earnings show the weight of 170,000 compensation. So that's the point they were trying to make. I don't know how correlated it is. I think the bigger thing is, and the reason I brought my other point up of kind of like to listen to what the truckers are saying and feeling, and you can kind of sift through. It's like reading Yelp reviews on a
Yeah.
always two people that they're sour grapes, but when you see a trend, it was just like, um it was eye-opening to me. I'm not trying to be an alarmist or anything,
Yeah, and I
but
guess that was my other point to UPS and the that news that came out. I guess it was nearly 6 months ago now about how the truck drivers are going to get paid so much more money. Great for them. As an investor, do you say, "Ooh, geez, that's a lot of cash going out the door"? We do have to skip along to Wednesday because there is so much to talk about the rest of this week. Before open on Wednesday, you had Boeing, AT&T, uh, Boston Scientific. Those are the big ones from before, and then after close, you had Meta, IBM, Ford. Do you pronounce it Chipotle or Chipotle?
Chipotle.
Okay, so where are we getting into on Wednesday? Where would you like to start with Wednesday, Tom?
The Every time you think they're about, it's got to slow down. There's no more. They can't push prices increases onto their customers anymore. It's got to stop. Gen Z is going to run out of money. It doesn't. Chipotle, I'll never doubt them. That's where I wanted to start, man. What a good earnings call. I mean, what a
Hey,
good.
Tom, I'm going to interrupt you right there. Right
Yeah.
now, I am trying to figure out what of my stocks to sell and to figure out a way to come up with 3,000 or 3,100 US dollars so I can buy one share of, how do you pronounce it? Chipotle? Chipotle?
Remember, they're doing the 50-for-1 split.
That's why I want to buy the one share.
Uh, well, you could buy any amount and you'll end up with the 50 times one.
Yeah, and well, I'm thinking that too. It's like, oh, even if I put like $500, $500 Canadian might not get me too much of a share, but at least it would be something, right?
Yeah, I know. Man, up another $75 today. And, you
I've
know,
been looking actually this week. I've been looking at like the uh all-time chart, and I think it goes back to about 2006 on Yahoo Finance. Again, I'm looking on yahoofinance.ca, and it was like a $45 stock, and I was like, wow, if you bought 100 shares, $4,500 back in 19 or sorry, 2006, 18 years later, right? Like, oh my goodness. That company has probably made a few millionaires just on people holding that stock for 15 or 20 years.
yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. This quarter they announced foot traffic up 5% and change. That's huge. I mean, we're not talking about a small operator. They're doing um, their revenue is knocking on the door of 3 billion a quarter now. I mean, this is
Wow.
operation. Earn Yeah, first quarter net income up about 60 million compared to last year in the same quarter. And that's with, you start thinking, oh, sure, they're going to start feeling the wage inflation prices. The story we've heard about California minimum wage of $20. I'm sure they were paying pretty close to
Yeah.
20, not there already in California, but like
Yeah, it's
it's
probably just the cost of living in that state. You've got to, even if you're working at McDonald's or Taco Bell or wherever, you've got to be making $18 an hour just to keep your head above water.
so I think my takeaway there is okay. All right, things are tough. Gen Z's tight with student loans. Supposedly that's the story, right? They can't buy a home, but maybe they're saying, you know what? I don't care if I can never buy a home. I want my Chipotle. Maybe it's as simple as that. I don't know. Um, but digital sales make all the difference and matter. And here's another good example. You could have bought Chipotle at $200 and change. How many years ago was it now? It was at least 10 years ago. They had the big scare, the E. coli scare. You go to Chipotle, you're going to die, basically. And um, their founder, CEO, um, his name slips me. Oh, Els, I think that was his last name. He was shown the door, right? He was
Right.
shown. So it's just that point of inflection. Good companies are going to go through it. And if you can wait through it, there's that long term thing. And that's what I'm hoping for. I don't make too many speculative plays. That's what I'm hoping for on Tesla. And there's a little known stock that not too many know about. It's very overvalued now. I'm hoping it follows in the same damn footsteps of Chipotle. Because when you get these warlocks of just like customer loyalty, bam, they make you wealthy.
Hmm. Well, are you going to tell us what that stock is?
I will. It's Kava. don't buy it at $60 a share. Although I buy every week in my 52-week challenge, and I was going in on it at 26, and I had a buy up to 36 or 40. That was my highest overvalued number I'd buy it. The thing gapped up to 71 a few weeks ago. Traded back sensibly to the high 50s or 60s the past couple of weeks. Hey, they've told us their margins are going to go down a little bit. They've been pretty stratospheric, right in line with Chipotle net margins. They're going to go down a little bit. I'm thinking 3 to 5 years out on Kava. I love.
Okay, fair enough. I do want to kind of also give a shout out to Chipotle Mexican Grill, ticker symbol CMG. Another kind of thing that they have going for them is they have YouTubers. I don't know if you know who Ryan Trahan is or not, but Ryan Trahan is a YouTuber that has at least 10 million, if not 20 million subscribers. So his videos get a lot of views, needless to say. And he's like a fan. He just goes there, he gets a burrito. And so like it's like free advertising for them when they end up in a YouTube video that's going out to, 10 million people, right?
Do you have a Chipotle near you, Dave?
I looked that up the other day, and I can't remember what I found out when I looked it up, if there's even one in Canada or not. Again, when I look up all these huge American companies and there's like, oh, there's gonna be like a Dave and Buster's. I looked that up a few weeks ago. I was like, oh, there's one in Toronto because that's where they all go to start, right? They go to Toronto, see if they can make it to, and it's like so. I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you with that. I'll DM you the answer later if there
Uh,
actually is one in Canada, or someone in the chat can help me maybe that
I got
knows if there's one in Canada. I honestly don't know right now.
breaking news. I've got it. There's 26 locations in Ontario, so we can
Oh,
map it.
geez, really?
So you want Chipotle stock? I got a plan. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
Listen to this. Start going to Chipotle and filming it on the Passive Income podcast. You'll get a sponsor, you'll get stock, you'll get everything,
I
and
love it.
you'll go viral like your boy with 20 million subscribers. I can
I
see that.
love it. I'm gonna go look up those locations, and I'm gonna go find it because some of them have to be close to me. If there's 20 in Ontario, some of them have to be close to me, right? That just makes sense.
So I think it's a great moment to film the Passive Income podcast at a Chipotle and start going viral that way. I love it.
I love it too, man. I love it too. Wednesday. Anything more we want to talk about there? There was the Boeing AT&T. Do you want to say anything about? Again, we talked about. Oh yeah, Verizon was just a day or two ago that we talked about. Ford again. Uh, Kind of going back to that Tesla. Ford is getting into the EVs with the F-150 Lightning. Not really sure where that's going. I've kind of seen mixed reviews. Down there before open at the bottom, you see Boston Scientific as well. So uh, we're
Um,
still on Wednesday. Joseph, why are you missing this week, buddy?
let's not forget about a company that was. I mean, this is cool. Back in the day, this company didn't go. It's so cool when the company's name is the actual stock symbol. It's even cooler when your name is associated. You don't even have to use the name or the stock symbol. People used to call it Big Blue. Not anymore. IBM, rough day after the close. I got to
Right.
get I got to get into that one a little bit more. I was talking to he goes by Broadcast Dividends now up in Michigan, talking about that one. He was asking me what I thought about it, and um, I went as far of two questions in. Why is it down so much? It's a mix of business. The 4 or 5 categories that they're in. The level I was going into is the margins in those underlying businesses where the growth is, and I think that's some of what's causing this sell off. I've never owned it, never been against IBM, but never been a. I mean, there's just some industries or some stocks I just don't personally own directly. Like I've never owned autos. I just said Tesla, but I don't consider Tesla truly an auto company. I think autos are for driving, in my opinion, not investing in. So,
Right. I'm just gonna quickly share this, and I hate to do it, but share this tab instead. Can you see that there?
vaguely, is that
Yeah, it says Ottawa commit 100 million for semiconductor capacity in Bromont, Quebec, but their big IBM symbol there in the background. So honestly, I saw that headline today. I have not read the article, so I don't even know what we're talking about there. But you were talking about IBM, and I remembered seeing the article, so I thought I'd just pull it up there quickly. We will get into Thursday. I think we were done with Wednesday, kind of, because
yeah,
Thursday there's so much more to go on Thursday as well. Um, Thursday, we've got the huge news from Alphabet, Google, huge, absolutely incredibly huge news, uh, which was the dividend, obviously. Before open, though, there was other companies, Royal Caribbean, American Airlines, Caterpillar, another great company. AstraZeneca, you see down there at the very bottom, and then, like I said, after close, you had your Microsoft, Alphabet, Intel, Snap, Roku. I don't know, man. Like, where do you want to go on Thursday?
I
Take
mean,
your pick.
let's start with Alphabet. Let's start with Google for $100. Okay, what is going on there? Imagine having that much cash, $70 billion stock buyback and dividend. The
Well,
question,
yeah, we're gonna buy back $70 billion, and then we're gonna pay all of you 20 cents a share as well at the same time, right? Like, wow.
yeah, I had a thought earlier in the week. It'd be good if someone, someone knows that's listening, post a comment. The one thing, it's kind of, it's an ironic moment, I think. Uh, if you're big tech, it's vogue, I guess, to pay a dividend now. Meta kicked it off, and now Google. But I could see if this was years ago when we were in a ZERP environment, they ain't making any money, but couldn't they collect the better part of 5% risk free, not paying anything out with that war chest? Even if they couldn't, they obviously can't invest all the cash, but um, Google. I sent out a post about a week ago. I started using an AI based search called Perplexity, which I am really enjoying.
Yeah, I saw that. And honestly, I still haven't went to it to,
it takes, I use Google personally as a backup now. So I think the key words in that stock performance and everything was they demonstrated two things. One, just great numbers. I think it was like the biggest increase in revenue in a quarter since 2015, almost 10 years. So it kind of softened the concern. The word on the street, and if you listen to some of the institutions and money managers, 6 years ago they were telling you what they were. 6 months ago they were saying what they were worried about. Google's falling behind in AI or AI search. That's going to hurt them. Um, Google took a little bit of that worry, I think, in my opinion, off the table. They're still selling the heck out of ad revenue. That's good. But they're showing that they're going to not just have, I think, a seat at the table, that they're going to be part of the table. So a little pent up buying. At least that's my short takeaway. At least what I think of Google. And did you have any thoughts on
well, my first thought is I hope everyone watched all the ads at the start of this video.
it?
Y No, but kinda as you were saying that about Google, I'm thinking, well, YouTube is a really big part of Google, obviously, right? And therefore a very big part of Alphabet. And all of those YouTube ads, like from Jimmy Beast down there in your state in North Carolina, like he's getting 100 million views in the first 30 days of a video post. That's a lot of ad revenue for YouTube. Therefore, for Google and then therefore for Alphabet, right? Like it's kind of those layers of companies: Alphabet, Google, YouTube. So and it's not just obviously Mr. Beast. There's so many YouTube creators creating so many great videos, and that is I'm just kind of wondering what the breakdown is there of, you know, h- Google making money compared to YouTube making money. And we probably we may never know. I don't know what the answer is. There might
Um,
not be an answer, but
they
YouTube is obviously a very, 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 very big part of that, that piece of that pie. And again, thank you everyone who at least made it to 7 seconds before you skip the ad.
Yeah, they specifically called out YouTube traffic up big. So it's a combination of Mr. Beast, passive income podcast, and everything, in
Yeah.
my opinion. But the thing, it's an interesting setup to me. So, like we were talking about earlier, this is why, it's almost like two economies that we're in right now. Start talking about these big tech names, massive parabolic moves, incredible growth, right? And then what? UPS revenue is down. Just all anecdotal. Listening to truckers saying like old school stuff is not shipping. It's interesting to see what economy is going to win out. What drives the economy these days? This isn't 1985 anymore, but does like the bricks and mortar, the industrial stuff still matter? It feels like
Well, it does because Amazon is going back. Like Amazon was built on the internet and it's building now bricks and mortar, right? Like
yeah,
so it has to matter. Like actual physical real estate.
yeah. I mean, this is just amazing. So although I love Perplexity, we'll see Google search up. That's where they embed their ads, which sometimes drive me crazy on the search. I need what I'm looking for. I need a higher degree of relevance, and I don't need the 1.23 million results and sponsored ad stuff popping up at me. Then I've got to sift through it. So it'll be
No, that's
interesting.
actually that actually might be part of Google's problem is like I don't want 1.3 million results. I want 10 or
Yeah,
12 or 24 results that I could just actually go through. I'm not going to go through 1.3 million results in the search, right?
no doubt. Radish is already the hard enough. She already works hard enough producing and researching stuff for future podcasts. She doesn't have time for that either. You must have been busy on Snapchat. Did you like the Snap call the other day? That stock went parabolic. I didn't.
So, yeah, I'm not on Snapchat. I think I might have an account that I started. I don't know. I I I don't use it. I'm basically, as everyone knows, I'm on YouTube and Twitter, and that's pretty much it. I did see Joseph's post the other day about it not ending well, and then like the next day, I think he tagged both you and I in it, saying, "Well, that didn't age well." So it sounded like their earnings were better than expected.
It was. Uh, I didn't go too deep into that one, but I mean, it was the best it sounded. It was good. The ad revenue or something like that. That was a big driver. Not only traffic, ad revenue, and that wasn't just when they were having problems a couple of years ago when they thought the economy was really softening. A lot of marketing expense was down. They weren't getting ad revenue, so Snap Snap lives another day. Um, hopefully, Joseph is Snapchatting his way through TSA as we speak.
Oh, he's probably on the flight by now. That was, yeah. Hopefully, he's on the in the tube of
They may
the
have
metal bird, and on his way back to North Carolina as well.
TSA
Um,
side. They may have seen or heard his negative comments on Snapchat, and they need to talk to him. In other words,
yeah, right. They pulled him aside because of us.
that's
Roku, great device. I've had it on one of my TVs for literally probably close to 10 years now, and I've had the same one. It's still working. It's good, but I have really no idea about the stock or the company. I just know that it works on my TV.
Yeah, we have one we kind of use it a little bit too. Never. I just wonder, um, how well. Sometimes these devices, Roku. I just wonder. At one point, does this become? At what point does Roku? Do people start posting pictures of their old Roku device and say, "Remember this," and then it
Yeah.
gets
Well,
back.
I've already, like I said, I've got that one. It's mine is close to 10 years old. So,
Yeah, you know, I'm
one more
good.
just comment there. T-Mobile. It seems like we've had a lot of the U.S. telecoms earnings this week. I guess all of them, right? AT&T, Verizon, now T-Mobile. So actually, I think is T-Mobile. I think they're actually might be headquartered in Germany, just have a very large US presence. I may be mistaken.
Let's check that. I'll check that for you. Yeah, another good quarter. I love the. I'm a T-Mobile customer. Um, I but don't own the stock or really follow it. But shoot, in the U.S., and my experience has been better than AT&T. I've never been Verizon. T-Mobile headquarters. That's a good question. I thought they were.
For some reason, I think I had a guest on the Passive Income podcast that was telling me that T-Mobile was headquartered out of somewhere in Europe.
There you go. Yeah. So it's part of Deutsche Telekom out of Bonn, Germany, but
Yeah,
headquarters, U.S. headquarters out in Bellevue, Washington. Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so obviously big global company. Um, I again for these other players like the T-Mobiles and the AT&Ts and the Verizons, very tough to break into the Canadian market because you mentioned previously like duopoly when we were talking about Visa and Mastercard, and it's very similar here. It's very hard for anyone else to become a telecom player here in Canada. We've got sort of the big three or four, and that's it. That's all you got. We will jump over to Friday. We're finally getting to Friday. We've had so much this week to talk about.
You know, can we jump back? I forget what day it was now. Today's Friday.
Oh,
Let's not leave Zuck out of this, right?
yeah.
This
What day was?
that had to
Yeah,
have been
Meta was on Wednesday. Meta
definitely.
was on Wednesday. You're
So
right. We did kind of gloss over that.
they they say he really zucked it up, so to speak. They had fairly good results. And he went on talking. You know what I think really spooked them? Just like a couple of years ago, maybe it was 3 years ago. Remember, we got into all the metaverse stuff. Spent
Yeah,
some.
which did not really go over well, right? Like,
No,
it was a perfect timing to bring out the metaverse. It was the pandemic. Everybody's sitting at home. Everybody can put a pair of goggles on and play around in a virtual hotel or casino or whatever. But at the end of the day, like a year later, people took the goggles off and went back to work. So, like, does does anyone let us know in the chat? Does anyone ever still go to the metaverse?
mm,
And
you
that's
know,
actually going back to those YouTube videos I was talking about, like the creators like Ryan Trahan. A few years ago, he was putting out videos of like, here I am spending 24 hours in the metaverse, right? And
so
those videos are gone. And again, when you have 10 million, 20 million subscribers on YouTube, they're getting a lot of views. So it literally is free advertising for these companies when a creator decides to do this. But a
yeah,
year later, sort of the trend is over. And that's pretty much, in my opinion, what the metaverse was. It was a trend. And I'm sure there's still probably some people hanging out there, but it's
and that's kind of what scared them. I think their division, Reality Labs, lost $6 billion. That's like a lot more than a rounding error to you and me. And then he went, we're going to lose even more going
Yeah,
forward.
6 billion, carry the one, right? Like,
So they're like, wait, you were the, uh, fiscal responsibility mattered. Um, the whole get back to economics thing. I think that, that kind of obviously jolted the stock. Um,
yeah, for sure.
but yeah, we forgot about our friend Zuck, didn't we?
Are we gonna skip back over to Friday just to
Now let's wind the week down. What was hot today?
the oil and gas and, well, ExxonMobil, Chevron up there, um, AbbVie, some healthcare. I haven't even touched on some of the Canadian ones that were this weekend because it's been such an incredible week with all these, like the Mag 7 as they call them and everything in the US. I haven't even had a chance to think about the Canadian ones. I think there might have been one of the railroads in Canada this week, and as everyone knows that follows me on Twitter, I love to post the pics of the trains going by my house. But yeah, jump into Friday, ExxonMobil, Chevron, AbbVie, anything you want to talk about there?
I didn't touch any of those today. I didn't really dig into the oil results. Was there anything that jumped out at you there?
Not so much. Just I guess earlier when we were going through the closing numbers, that the uh, where were we at? I'm just actually skipping over to this page here again. A barrel closed at $83.66 USD, which isn't a high, not a low. It's just it is what it is. Nothing. I don't want to call it a nothing burger. Like oil and gas is still so important to us. Again, we're going back to we had earnings this week from Tesla, Ford, and we're talking about EVs and the environment and whatnot. But at the end of the day, we're 100 to 200 years away from getting away from fossil fuels. So you just kind of, I guess, take it with a grain of salt, so to speak, right? Like, let me know if you sort of agree with that idea, that sentiment.
I mean, it's in everything. It's so wrapped in what we're doing. I was thinking closer to home what this year's political landscape might be for elections. I heard something. I want to look into it a little bit more. Probably won't make much of a difference. Let's just put it this way. Exxon, Chevron, they're going to be minting money cash, um, nonstop. Just great cash generating machines going nowhere. I don't think anything to necessarily worry about, but it is good to see the oil market settle down just a little bit, a little less geopolitical tension or urgency just this week. That's pretty cool. Um,
Yeah, it's
but there, the other one that caught my eye. This was either a Thursday night. It was either a Thursday night or Friday report. Was Intel used to be the semiconductor darling.
yeah,
You think Nvidia now. That was Intel 30 something years ago, right?
yeah,
Performance, how close it was. But that's why a lot of times I don't own these technology companies directly because I can see what they're doing and understand the story on the way up and while they're well. But sometimes it's hard to pinpoint when they're going to become, obsolete or prehistoric. And there was some really negative stuff on Intel. One analyst, I think it's closed in the 30s, low 30s, had a $17 call on it. That's where he sees the stock going. Um, but they got I think it was $8 billion of the U.S. chip money. So can the government step in and infuse cash in a company, but then the said company still has to have products, quite frankly, that are relevant. And I don't think that's not going to fix itself quickly. It could fix itself, but it ain't going to be quick. It won't be this
right.
quarter. Oh, you know what we
Wow,
didn't talk.
Tom. Well, we did it. We made it through the entire week. There was so many great companies to talk about.
We forgot one thing. You know what we forgot to talk about? The
Tell
event.
me.
Well, Bitcoin halving. That was like the 24th. That was this week, wasn't it? Tuesday or so?
Yeah, no, it did happen, and I'm actually personally a little disappointed in it. Let me pull that up quickly to the coin market cap. Here we are. Bitcoin is currently trading at. Do I have that up there? Oh no, I did not share the screen. Here we go. Bitcoin is currently at 63,777 USD. Ethereum at 31,000, and the list goes on there. If you go to CoinMarketCap, very disappointed in myself personally because before the halving, it skyrocketed to that new all-time high of around 73,000. Now, with this said, I'm very, very confident that within a year, it's going to probably go up to another like it's going to skyrocket to who knows what, right? If you look at historically what Bitcoin has done after the halving, 8 to 12 months after the halving in 2012, 2016, 2020, it skyrocketed. So a year from now, is Bitcoin going to be at 150 grand, 250 grand, 500 grand? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but it's when you look at it historically, you just think what could happen here, right? Like the potential is unreal. And that's I guess my 2 cents worth with Bitcoin and cryptocurrency at the moment.
Yep. I don't want to have all my money in Bitcoin just in case, but I don't want to have none of it.
Yeah. You know what? I'm in the exact same boat. I was like, I want to have like kind of my stocks that pay me dividends and my stocks that have a little bit of growth. But you know what? At the same time, I want to have some money over there in crypto, just almost to wait and see what happens, right? Like where does Bitcoin going to be in 6 years from now in 2030 when another halving has happened? Is like, can I turn my 100 Canadian dollars into 100,000? Who knows, right? Like it's
Yeah,
absolutely crazy. Maybe I can.
no doubt.
Tom, with that said, I so appreciate you coming on here and being the guest host this week on the Weekly Close Live. I know Joseph was so gutted for missing this week because there was so many great companies to talk about. You have definitely, well, as always, just been an absolute pleasure to talk with you. And honestly, you know what? I know that there was an episode of the Money Happy Hour a couple days ago where you guys talked about me, me,
Yeah.
and I haven't heard it yet. It's been on my playlist, and I
Yeah.
haven't had the time to click play on it yet. So I'm definitely gonna get to that this weekend to see what you guys said about me.
Yep.
Hopefully, somewhat positive.
Was I think just ignore a minute 23 and 12 seconds to 23 and 46 seconds. Just ignore that about you. It'll be fine.
Yeah, no, I saw Rusty Rams tweet about me being in that episode, and he's like, I know him." So that was all fun. And I'm definitely going to give that a listen this week. So definitely go and check out the Money Happy Hour podcast. And thank you everyone for tuning in this week to the Weekly Close Live. Joseph and I will be back at it again next week. And again, sometime in the future, we will have Tom back on as a very, very, very special
That's it.
co-host here on the Weekly Close Live.
Hey, I'll be the substitute. I'll be the substitute teacher anytime, man. All right.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, brother.
Awesome. Thanks, Tom.